Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I really appreciate all my new subscribers. I'm just strictly amazed. And I really thank you. Really appreciate it. Today's topic, living life. In life, I had two choices to make. I could have stayed in my home country, getting my Social Security, having Medicare taken out of my check. I think, what is it now, 140 some odd dollars, maybe 150 per month taken out, with limited health care, renting a dump because I couldn't afford nothing else, being alone, and on the verge of starving, and having no entertainment, couldn't afford it. Think about it, you're there, people, you live in the Western world, you know what it costs. With limited resources, I could be living in the U.S., spending my money in the U.S. for basic needs if I can. No. Transportation, that probably would cease to happen. I probably have to move in an area where I could get some public transportation, which I couldn't afford. My hometown, there's very little public transportation. There is a couple of elderly housing places, which they take 50% of the income for the apartment, you might call it. The reason I know this is because my mother lived there. No, they didn't take 50%, they took 33%. I'll be corrected. A third of her income. When she lived there, I was constantly going there and trying to help my mama. She lived on Social Security also, after working all of her life. And the only transportation she could afford was when I came along, and I'd take her places, which I did on a regular basis, as often as I could, because I was working, which made it very limited. It's sad to say that the only visits you get was when I take time out and go on my own, and trying to at that time maintain a family and be productive. Her visits are far and few between. And even phone calls were limited because, no time. I could have been in her same situation. And living alone. My mom was my inspiration to make a change. Do something better in my last days, as I might say. I seen how she struggled, and that wasn't for me. I'm sorry. I wanted to live when work ended. I wanted to become alive. She lived alone and, not happy. Only when I came around and I'd look around and see what she needed. And that made her even more depressed to be dependent. And I would be the same way. So, as time rolled by, I ended up getting a divorce. We'll not talk about that. over the reasons. We just say we had a failure of communication. We leave it at that. But I maintain a good relationship with my kids even to this day. We do, they call it FaceTime or whatever you want to call it, but we do video calls. And we stay in contact. My two kids in the States. I've always tried my best to keep a good relationship with my kids. And they helped me make my decision also. Be honest with you. They could see at the time, after the divorce, I was living alone. And I was fortunate enough to find a place that was affordable, that give me things to do and to keep me occupied. But still, I had that limited, all my freedom was gone. That's what you can call it. When you retire with a simple income, you lose your freedom. I often wondered, where could I find a word that fit what happens? What I mean by losing your freedom, you can't do things because you can't afford to. And it's no fault of my own. Things happen in life. And that happens to a lot of people out there. And I'm sure you know who you are. You work hard all your life, you end up with a simple income. And you never could get the resources to get that 401k and savings and to amass things for your retirement. There's people out there that does, and I'm proud that they do. I'm happy for them. But there's a lot that don't get to do that. Life is different for everybody. I spent 7 years alone, struggling. No. Before, I finally retired. Well, come to the point, I didn't have no other choice, just be honest with you. Life events of my past finally caught up to the point that I couldn't function and maintain a work. Things I love to do, I couldn't do. My hands wouldn't work. My body just wouldn't function for it. And when winter rolled around, that was miserable. I don't miss the snow and ice. I don't miss being cold. No. Be honest with you, I kept my house so cold because it was too expensive. I couldn't afford to heat it. And I was miserable. All this time, I spent alone, I did start, in the early days of the internet, it was okay. I didn't have cable TV. I didn't have a regular phone in the house. Too expensive. But I did manage to get internet. And I started talking to girls in the Eastern world. The Philippines primarily. I did talk in other countries. Korea, Thailand, Taiwan. And I stayed within an age group I thought would be acceptable. Well, I found out that didn't work either. Because when it was in the age group that I felt that my people wouldn't look down on me, these women were already raised families. And they wasn't looking for a relationship that meant anything. Some were widows, some were divorced. And it was meaningless. I don't know how to explain that. I was beginning to think that life, as I knew it, wasn't going to be any better. Then, the more I talked to the ladies in the Philippines, it had its downfalls too. The biggest downfall was that the majority of them at that time, I've got a sick grandma, I got sick parents, I had an accident, my caribou died, all kinds. I've heard it all. Not one was interested in who I was. Until I accidentally met Grace. And that was an accident. I don't know if, I think in previous videos I might have commented on it, but it was on a Saturday night. I remember it well. And late. And there was nobody online to talk to. Now, I'm one that don't sleep well anyway, so it was late and nobody to talk to. I was sitting there with deep depression. So I went to a site that I had signed up on, but only visit once because the results were terrible. But I thought, well, maybe it's some entertainment. So I go online on that site, and I thumb, and it shows who's online. And seen Grace and caught my attention. But when I looked at the age, I said, oh no, we're not go there. So I will scroll on down, and I actually had a few chats, and like always, same results. That they was useless. I mean, they weren't interested in who I was. So I went back and viewed, see who was online. Grace was still there. Something about her eyes caught my attention. And of course, she was dressed neatly, not like the other girls being provocative. I said, so I clicked on it, and I said hello. And it grew from there. She wasn't interested in begging me for money or stuff like that. She wouldn't know who it was. She wouldn't know about my kids, my family, my background. And I same with her. And over time, I met her family online, her sisters and uncles and her parents. You know, I was amazed at their attitudes. So that's why I ended up here. Now, I'll be honest with you, the beginning wasn't a bed of roses because I unloaded everything, paid all my debts and everything, and my funds were very limited. I came here to get a fresh start. Starting off from the bottom is not easy. No. Fortunately, Grace was the person that I thought was correct. She stuck by me during those bad times. So when you first come here, you're going to run across a lot of expenses you not think of. One thing is, when you're in a place, you have nothing, and There are little things you will need. No. There's bedding, there's towels, there's washcloths, cleaning supplies, all these things. And plus you want to do things. And plus you have to deal with immigration, every 2 months you got to go get your visa extended, and then on your second extension you got to get the I card, which is expensive when you're on a budget. And life was difficult, but she stood right in there. It wasn't a rich man taking on a pretty young lady. It was a poor old hillbilly looking for another soul that would match, and we'd get out and do things and go places and everything. Now, I know a lot of folks out there will view or even say, if you watch the video this far, you know what I'm talking about. They say, well, the only reason you hooked up with her is because of one thing. I'll tell you right now, you're wrong. I hooked up with her because she was, in my eyes, she was everything I looked for. She reminded me of my grandmother. She was meek, and she had other people's concerns. She didn't want to hurt other people's feelings. She had the attitude, if you can't say something good about somebody, don't say it. That's exactly the same thing my grandmother would do. My grandmother raised me, if you want to know. And little things that, after I got here, were actually kind of scary, She would dip her bread in coffee. It's something my grandmother would do. And there's just too many similarities that would make me think of my grandmother. She does to this day. The facial expressions, the gestures. And the thing she wants to make sure of more than anything is that I'm comfortable, I'm happy. She takes care of my fingernails, my toenails. She gets the hair on my ears. She keeps a close eye on me. If she sees an abrasion or a place I've accidentally got hurt or whatever, she's deep concerned. She immediately jumps onto it and starts putting disinfectants and everything on it. And asks me what happened and all that good stuff. A Filipina is entirely different in attitude when it comes to being a supportive wife. And in the return, I'm the same way towards her. I want to make sure she's happy and comfortable also. And after all of our struggles and everything, and getting everything in line, and I finally ended up getting a permanent visa, things got better, and we started saving money. And she's very good at saving money. You tell me how many people could build a house, buy property, and all be paid for, no payments on Social Security. And you'll wonder why I came to the Philippines. No, I don't own it. Foreigners can't own land. I don't want to own it. Everything's in gracious name. She could kick me out today. There ain't a thing I could say. But she ain't going to do that. But if she did, as the old saying goes, don't invest in anything you're not willing to walk away from. But I'm not concerned. I'm really not. Yeah, folks, you can make life-changing events happen. It's all up to you. Now, not everybody's going to have the same experience as I do. Not everybody's got the same attitude. But that's the way life is. If everybody was the same, we'd all be, I guess, insane. But folks, you can do me one favor. You can subscribe. Thank you very much. And hopefully next time I'll have something better to talk about.